I'm kind of surprised the official MCU has never come calling, or if they have, you've said
They
no.
have, they have. Look, I've done the trifecta. I've done Batman, Superman, Spider-Man,
That's true.
and Wonder Woman,
And
right?
Wonder Woman, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So,
Where
you
do you go
know,
from there? It's hard
yeah.
to, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, what do you want me to do? Do some of the minor characters? Probably yes.
This is
Um,
Hans Zimmer, folks. Come on.
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
Hey guys, it's Josh with another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. And this one, we're breaking new ground. After 11 years, don't tell me I can't learn new tricks. We have a composer on the show today. It's Hans Zimmer, an icon, a legend. If we were going to have a composer, of course, it would have to be someone like Hans Zimmer. He has a new film. It is called Hans Zimmer and Friends, Diamond in the Desert. It is out in theaters March 19th, only for a few days. It is a full-on immersive concert experience. If you love his work, as I do, check it out. It is well worth your hard-earned dollar. All right, before we get to Hans and my conversation, a couple bits and bobs just to remind you guys. We have a live event coming up March 20th. It is Nathan Lane and moi at Symphony Space in New York City. If you've never seen me do one of these live events, they are always a blast. And Nathan Lane has never done the podcast, and there is certainly a lot to talk about. So get your tickets now. The link information is in the show notes. If you love Happy Sad Confused, if you want to support us, go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Happy Sad Confused. You can get your merch, you can get your discount codes, you can get your early access, you can get bonus content, autograph posters. It's all there for you. Check out our Patreon. Supporting us over there lets you make more of this for you guys. Okay, main event, as I said, Hans Zimmer, and kind of an intimidating guy to talk to, not because he's super engaging and easy. He's super engaging and easy to talk to. It's just that he's done so much. So, like, where do you even begin? But we did cover a lot in this, including his collaborations with Denis Villeneuve, the Dune films, Christopher Nolan, of course, the Batman films, Inception, Interstellar, Ridley Scott, Gladiator, Zack Snyder, Man of Steel. So we actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we covered quite a bit in our time together. That being said, he's one of those that you could probably have 10 conversations with, and it'd always be new, unique, and interesting. Very charming man, and made it easy for someone like me who's never, how do you have a deep conversation about what it means to score a movie? I don't have that knowledge, but he made it easy with great stories and putting it into terms that even I could understand. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you're a cinephile like me, if you grew up with Hans Zimmer, like I did, I think you're gonna get a kick out of this. Check out the movie. It's in theaters, as I said, March 19th. Hans Zimmer and Friends, Diamond in the Desert. And in the meantime, enjoy this conversation. The one and only Hans Zimmer. Here he is. He's already told me to call him Hans, but I can't say it. It's Mr. Hans Zimmer. He is responsible for so much joy in my life as a cinephile. Welcome to the podcast. This is, I will say, sir, I'm saying, sir, I'm sorry in advance. In over 11 years of doing this podcast, every notable filmmaker and actor, I've never done a composer. I'm a little scared because I don't feel like I know how to speak about music adequately, but
that's
I
all
had to
right.
make an exception for
I
you.
don't either. 2 weeks of piano lessons, and I've been making it up ever since. So,
Well, you're doing a
I
pretty good
think
job
you're
of it.
fine. Except I'm probably way ahead of you on MTV. So, I was in the first video that you guys ever screened.
That's right, you were. You predate me. I've done nearly
Right.
2 decades at MTV,
But
so you
yeah,
you
you're
go back
just
to the beginning.
starting out, you child, you.
The problem with chatting with you is you've done so damn much in your career, so we're only going to scratch a tip of the iceberg. But the wonderful excuse that's bringing us here together today is your new film, Hans Zimmer and
Yes.
Friends, Diamond in the Desert. I was telling you before, I've never had the pleasure, many haven't had the pleasure and the opportunity to get to see you do your thing in an arena in a giant format, but this gave me a sense of what I've been missing.
Yes. It really felt important to us. I mean, there are places we can't play. There are places that don't have the space where we can play. There are places that are just too out of the way. There are tickets which are too expensive. There's all sorts of things that stop people from uh, seeing what we like to do. And so it seemed like a really good idea we plus we were, we were shooting Dune sort of over the shoulder on the left side of the screen, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So we were in the Middle East, and it felt like a perfect opportunity to go and grab Paul Dugdale, who's an amazing video director, and just get up to some mischief and actually film one of the shows, and then show it to some of my friends and actually talk to them about it, which sort of makes it slightly different.
Yeah, and when some of your friends are, Timmy Chalamet, Chris Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, Zendaya, Pharrell, that adds something to the mix too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was really Pharrell and Johnny Marr who got me to do any of this. I mean, I was happy just being a film composer and being in this room and just never ever ever leaving, and having stage fright and everything. And it was the two of them that sort of sat me down and actually sat a little too close to me, so I couldn't get up, on that couch behind me actually, and went, Hans, there comes a time where you can't hide behind a screen anymore, where you have to go out and look people in the eye and do things in real time. And I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. I got stage fright. I can't do that. And they sort of carried on like for about an hour at me with different versions of, you got to get out there. And then sort of gave up, and Johnny left the room first, and Pharrell was sort of hanging on the door. And he said, I'm doing the Grammys this year. Do you want to come and play guitar for me? And I thought, only an idiot would say no, you know? And so that's how that thing started, because play guitar at the Grammys actually was really joyous, it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I thought, maybe I can do that. And when we started the band and started doing all this stuff, Pharrell and Johnny came along and did the first few shows with us. They did a show in London with us, and they did Coachella, which was, you know, not bad for somebody who was just leaving his room, you know.
It's quite a start to a concert career. And now, and I mean, this is a whole. I mean, this is a crazy kind of new adventure in recent years for your life. And obviously, I mean, what's the point of connection you feel on stage now with an audience? Because it's one thing to hear from folks like me to say, I've been listening to you for decades, and yes, it means a lot. But to see in someone's eyes and to feel that connection on stage must be a whole
Yes,
different
I mean,
thing.
since I have absolutely no stagecraft, as you have found out, um, but what I do have is I have a great desire to communicate with people, and
Yeah.
so I say to the audience, look, let's just treat this like a dinner party, and we're just having a chat, and we're going to play some music, and we're going to go and see how it goes down, and then, we'll take it from there. And we're going to be playing music that, I mean, like we're breaking all the rules, right? I mean, first of all, I think it's important to say that our orchestra is from Ukraine, so they're and we're looking after them very, very, very well. I mean, we've worked with them before the war started properly, and then we got them over 2 weeks after the war started, and it was very, very, very difficult to actually get them out. And now they can't go back,
Right.
So we have that. I have an amazing band. I love the idea that we are so international. Um, and and the things we were told right from the start was, um, don't play anything too long. The audience has no attention span. So, Dark Knight is like 20 minutes, Pirates is 14 minutes. I mean, that's the sort of average. I don't even know how long Interstellar is. I never measured it.
Right.
Um, but it's and people hang in there with you, because it's not song form. It's not, verse, chorus, guitar solo, goodbye,
Right.
it goes through changes. And the other thing which was really important to me was we don't show a single image from any of the films.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like that what a testament to the work itself that look, obviously pieces are designed for the cinema and to pair with cinema and to it's all a marriage together. But that they can stand on their own must be such like I mean that's not the is it part of the goal now? I don't even know. Like
But
that,
it
or
was
is it just a bonus? Like
no, no. It was always the goal that the piece of music could be, it was, yes, you're absolutely right. It was written for a scene in a film, but at the same time, it was written to open the doors for an audience to have an experience,
right,
an emotional experience. And I was never going to go as far as, manipulate and say, this is the experience you're going to have. So now it's like, the music is still there. The experience that you can find is to find your own thing. Make up your own story. If you remember the film, great. If you don't remember the film, doesn't matter.
right.
The other thing which I thought was interesting was I was thinking, how can I pull this off? I wanted to have an orchestra and I wanted to have a band, and I was thinking about orchestral music is usually you're spending an evening watching a guy's back, and he's doing this, and then there's a bunch of people dressed in penguin suits reading the newspaper, like a bad marriage on a Sunday morning, right? So I got rid of the newspapers, I got rid of the penguin suits, and I really got rid of the conductor, because with modern technology, I mean, it's easy. It's
Yeah.
easy. You can use screens above. You don't have to. You don't have to look. So the focus is for everybody to have an eyesight uh, to the audience, and to actually be able to make a connection with members in the audience, because you can, there's no pieces of paper in front of you.
The look, your body of work is so extensive. Is it hard to figure out what the set list was in this film? You have Dune, you have Inception, you have Wonder Woman, you have Man of Steel, you have Dark Phoenix, which some people might be surprised by. Was it kind of like hard to kind of figure out what to leave out and what to include?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's like putting Lion King in was sort of, hang on a second, I wrote this for children, but wait a second. These children are now our audience.
Right.
I mean that they've grown up, so it's worth putting back in. I
Yeah.
was actually Niall Marr, Johnny Marr's son, who said, Hans, get over yourself, put it in.
Right.
We're playing in
This
a
is for them, more for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and most of it are things that we actually genuinely enjoy playing.
Yeah.
You know, gen, you know, um, yeah, they're successes, but maybe they became successful pieces of music because we always enjoyed playing them. You know,
Sure. Sure.
um, I mean, it's it's a pretty radical show. It's not quite what you'd expect.
No, and I've been to some of those, and some of your esteemed colleagues in the business, some of the great composers. I've been to some of those concerts where
Right.
it's wonderful to sit back and let the memories flow. But this is more like going to like U2 at the Sphere than seeing John Williams at Tanglewood. With all due respect, and I love Mr. Williams. It's
Well, I come from a rock and roll background,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like I like plugging the guitar in, I like that, I celebrate my 2 weeks of piano lessons.
Making the most out of it.
Yeah,
Can I
making the
can,
most of it. I
can
think
I
I
ask?
got my money's worth.
Yeah, I think so. We all have. We're taping this right after the Oscars. I'm curious, like you've been nominated many times. You've won two Oscars. The first time you were nominated, I believe, was for Rain Man.
Yeah, my
And I
first Hollywood movie.
and I always marvel at I've watched the Oscars since I was a kid, and I always love like when they play a little bit of the music as every time like a participant from that movie wins an award. And that I think Rain Man won 8 awards that night. You were nominated. Do you
Yeah,
recall like hearing your music as Dustin
yeah,
Hoffman and so many ascended to the stage?
yes, yes, and I wrote Rain Man on a synthesizer with weird sounds, and there's an orchestra trying to play my music. So that was actually, it's really interesting that you say this, because I'm only just realizing as you're saying it, it was the beginning orchestras having to adapt to like
Right.
there's this new guy in town, and he works with weird electronic instruments and etc. So we better have some stuff in the orchestra as well that can go and do that, you know.
Totally.
So yes, it was incredibly weird. The following year I wasn't up, but Driving Miss Daisy was Best Picture, so they kept
Right.
playing that tune over and over again, and
Yeah.
then um, Gladiator was Best Picture, and I
Right.
was nominated, but again, it was like they played the tune over and over and over again.
Right.
So by that point, they got it
They were
right.
ready for the
Yeah,
Zimmer
they were
repertoire.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
What's
then
the yeah.
and then winning for Dune Part One. Um, I was sort of grumpy about the whole affair. We were touring. I was in Amsterdam. I said to my partner, don't want to have anything to do with it. We got a show tomorrow. I want to go to bed. She said, "You sure you don't want to watch it?" Then I phoned my people and said, don't bother me. I want to go to sleep." So um, I had my kids with me, and they were downstairs doing whatever they're doing, and then the phone rings, and it's my publicist going, "It's your cat," and I'm going, "I told you, I don't want to be disturbed," you know, right? And then like 2 minutes later, the phone rings again, and I'm going, "I told you," and she goes, but you won," and at that moment, the sort of door burst open, and I realized that my partner had not actually locked the door. There was a devious plot between her and my children, and they sort of flew in, and there was a big party going on downstairs with the whole band. And look, they didn't care if I won or lost; they just wanted a great big party, and so we
Yeah,
had
they
a
were having
great
that party
party.
regardless. It was just a
Yeah,
bonus you
exactly.
won.
Absolutely. So that was good. That was the best Oscars I ever had.
Yeah, just with
You
friends
know?
and family. Yeah, just
Yeah,
enjoying. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
totally.
It was really cool, and a really cool place in Amsterdam.
All right. So the benefit of the selections you have for this concert film is you let me go into some of these selections and talk about
Yeah.
sort of the
Sure.
history. Let's talk little bit about your amazing collaborations with Ridley Scott. Gladiator, obviously. I mean, one of the joys of working with Ridley is he mixes it up every single time. He can do
Well,
a
so far,
gladiator film or a drama,
I can do a quick rundown for you. We Gladiator sounds nothing like Black Hawk Down,
right.
sounds nothing like Thelma and Louise, sounds nothing like Black Rain, sounds nothing like Matchstick Men. I'm forgetting a few. Um, I mean,
No, but it's true.
and 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 so when you the thing that I love is I love working with inquisitive people. I mean, somebody just asked me to describe myself, and all I could come up with was restlessly inquisitive. It's
Right.
like I don't sleep much, and the people that I work with don't get to sleep much either. Because I'm going, and there's another idea, and we can
Right.
probably do it like this, and why don't we. I mean,
Did,
Pharrell and I once did the Oscars. We were the
sure.
musical directors at the Oscars. Afterwards, there was what do you call that? An intervention by both of our teams who said they would leave us if we ever had an idea like that again.
Just too much, too many ideas flowing at them. So when you work with someone like Ridley, like on something like Gladiator, does he give you any guidance or does he say, "This is the script, this is the idea I have, I want to see what you come up with"?
He
What's
didn't
the
really
working
have
relationship
he
there?
didn't really have a script, but the room you see behind me was the Gladiator cutting room. So we were in the same building and we're just working together very closely. Um, and Ridley is a man of few words. I mean, I remember playing him like my ideas for Hannibal. Oh, there's another movie
There
we
we
can
go. Yep.
mention. Um, and he's just sitting there completely stoically without expression, listening to it. And then I remember there came this sort of horror shock bit, and I'm thinking, should I turn it down? Should I turn? I'm playing at a fair volume, you know, and thing, this thing occurs, this terrifying thing occurs, and Ridley very slowly turns his head towards me and just raises one eyebrow, and then back to listening, and at the end I go, well, what do you think? Let's go, yeah, go, good. Gladiator, I took so long to write it, because I sort of I knew what it was supposed to be like,
Yeah.
and those pesky notes, I kept finding always the nearly good notes, and I knew it could be better, and so everybody was. I mean, look, Steven Spielberg was our producer,
Right.
so that's a different sort of a producer. So when he says maybe you should actually go and write the film now as opposed to trying to battle with this theme. But he really protected me. He really protected me, and realized I was hunting something down.
Yeah.
So um, you need a director who is your best friend,
Right.
is your comrade in arms.
Is it surreal or strange when, like, obviously you followed through on some film series, but then something like Gladiator, they do the sequel, and another composer uses some of your work, obviously, in honoring those themes. Like, is that
Well,
odd to go back and see a sequel using some of your own work?
well, it's Harry Gregson Williams, who, is one of my oldest friends. We started together in London, and I actually brought Harry over to Los Angeles. Um, And when Ridley was shooting Kingdom of Heaven, I just went, I can't do that. I mean, it's too similar to Gladiator. I can't do it. Um, but Ridley, I know a guy who can. So Harry did what I was supposed to do on Kingdom of Heaven. Um, and then Harry phoned me up and he said, how do you feel about me doing Gladiator 2? And to be really honest, I felt I was just setting myself up for bad criticism. Even if I had written the best score in the world for Gladiator 2, there would have been enough people who would have said, it's not as good as the old one,
Right.
Because not because it was, because how can you judge music? I mean, music isn't good, um, it doesn't work like this, but it works how people remember things.
Totally. I love the moment in the documentary. I want to segue into talking about the Dark Knight films because Timothy Chalamet talking about sort of like what, your interpretation of the Joker's music meant to him and how it inspired him as an actor. And I mean, and I've heard you talk about this a little bit. That's again, you're always taking risks. And Dark Knight, what you did with the Joker is such like a, seemingly abrasive, discordant, upsetting set of sounds. Was Chris all in on that from the start? Was the studio all in on that? Did you have the confidence that that was going to work for the Joker's theme, for lack of a better term?
I had so many ideas for the Joker, um, all in that vein,
Yeah,
all in that vein. Um, that Chris had to finish shooting the movie in Hong Kong. There's a Hong Kong scene.
right.
And so I said, Chris, I got all these ideas. So I'm going to buy you an iPod and you got that long flight ahead of you. And then you fly from there to London. So you have enough time, 10,000 bars, it's like, Um, and he listened, he dutifully listened to it all. And I said, well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? He goes, it's in there somewhere, but you know something? It hasn't made me a better human being. Um, well, I mean, look, there are two ways of writing film music. You can stay outside the character, and you can say, "Oh, it's tension." You're sort
Right.
of blanketing it, with tension. He's going to come, da, 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 whatever,
Right.
and mayhem's going to come. And what I was trying to do is, I was just trying to. It's like this sort of this bow being pulled inside this guy, this bow of anarchy. So I wanted the tension to always come from within him.
Right.
So
Did,
so so the music is always inside the character as opposed to describing them from the outside, which
does the in that
sometimes it
case
works and sometimes it doesn't, of course.
in that case, was that inspiration from the script? Had you been seeing footage of what Heath was doing, or was it simply based on what you were reading in the material?
It came from a painting that okay, a friend of mine had stuck a very bad Xerox copy of Francis Bacon's painting of the the, the Pope on my computer. And I remember Chris coming into my room and seeing that, and he said, "Oh, can I have that?" And the next thing I see the Joker, and there might be some inspiration there. So we all, we were all sort of working from this. I very often work from painters or architects. It's not from music that I work. I look at what Gerhard Richter has just painted, and there's far more inspiration in that for me than in other people's notes.
And similarly, that segues well into Man of Steel, which I mean, talk about a tall order. I mean, it doesn't get any
Oh,
better than John Williams and what he
no,
did.
okay, look, I'll be very honest about that. For 3 months, I was just freaking out and not writing a thing. And then Zach said that Chris Nolan had told him nothing will happen unless he comes down with a firm deadline. And he phoned me up and very cheerfully said, I'm coming down on Tuesday. And I said, I got nothing. I mean, I got maybe something, like a post-it, that you put on the fridge, of some scribbles. He goes, I love post-its and scribbles. So he came down. I played him the little theme, and he he loved it, and he said the wisest words to me. He said, Hans, you've done so many movies. It's just another movie. Stop freaking out. Um, but it's Superman. Yes, I know, but it is just another movie, which is actually correct, you know.
Do do you
But
have those
I
same?
still
Yeah,
I was respectful.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm curious. Like, do you have those same goosebump moments that we do as an audience? Like in your career when you're seeing it all married together? No, you're too
No,
close to it.
unfortunately, I know it's so annoying. I know I get them with other people's movies.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Dune, and I know that was as personal it is to Denis. That book meant a lot to you as well. Obviously, hell of an accomplishment on Dune Part Two. We can litigate that with the Academy later. I'm sure that's a sore point, but it is what it is.
You know something? It's not really a sore point. It's just sort of a stupid point. No, how can it be a sore point? I mean, it's like it's what more what was I going? I got disqualified because I was using material from the first movie in the
Right,
second movie. But it's not a sequel. It is the completion. It's the arc.
right.
Both movies are one arc. So was I supposed to go and take all the character themes away and write new character themes or develop them? So it's just a stupid rule, and I really didn't. What I didn't want to do is I didn't want to go and bitch about it.
Right.
So
Are you are you talking to Denis? I mean, it seems like Dune Messiah is happening sooner
I
than later.
I talk to Denis every day. You know, yes, it's happening sooner rather than later.
Has much work on your end been done yet? Like, do you already have in your mind what you're gonna play around with there?
Maybe, maybe.
That's
Yeah. No, yeah, Denis on a plane as we speak back to Canada.
it's
Yeah.
curious that you know his whereabouts so well. You
I
must
know
be
his
in it.
whereabouts so well. Right.
Back to Mr. Nolan for a second. Inception, another amazing score. How much does it? I mean, your influence is obviously everywhere, but every time you hear that, for lack of a better way of putting it, the wrong in a
It's very
trailer.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. You see, I didn't write the bram. I made the sound, but
Right.
Chris had it in his script. It's a
Oh, was it
story point.
right?
It's, because the movie deals with time, and and for him, how do you show that time has slowed down? Well, you slow the music down, and when you slow the music down, you get bram, right? Um, but all the trailer houses or the trailer editors suddenly realized that, if you use a nonsensical sound, because trailers are very hard to cut because you're forever cutting from one bit that doesn't fit to the next bit.
Right.
And if you hide that cut with some big other, three nonsensical things that somehow seem to be making what was an epic forward motion. So, but we were a story point. They
Right.
were not a story point.
So there's my answer. I can tell you hear that in the trailer. Little
Yeah,
no.
yeah. We really have to. Could you not think of something else?
Those that know your work, know Chris Nolan's work, probably know the story behind Interstellar. We don't need to go into detail, but the short version is it was a very unusual process in that he came to you with this essentially, I believe, a one-page fable, asked you to write something you didn't know what this was going to be, and then the rest is kind of history. My
Yeah.
question, yeah,
Yeah,
my,
go,
my
go, go, do
I
your
was going to say
question.
my question related to that is so you compose something, he does find it inspirational, he says let's get to work, I'm going to get to work. When you learned what it was in fact going to be, how big a story this was going to be
Well,
as
yeah,
well
no,
as
no. I mean,
intimate.
I'll give you that bit. So
Yeah,
it was a letter. He sent me the letter. It was a very heartfelt fable about what it meant to be a parent. And I was writing a very heartfelt piece about my son,
right.
because in Chris's letter, he was a, a boy, because Chris knows my son very well. It's only when I looked very carefully, and it was typewritten, right? Um, he originally had written her, and he had whited out the R, because of course he had written it for his daughter. Um, but so I finished it like 10 o'clock at night and phoned Chris's house. Emma, his wife, answered, and I said, "Well, I finished it. Do you want me to send it over?" And she said, "Actually, he's really rather antsy. Can he come over?" And well, sure, absolutely. We're rock and rollers. 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, that's still early for us. So he came over and I played it to him, and I said, well, and it was very fragile. It was this fragile love story
Right.
for my child. And I said, well, what do you think? And he goes, well, I better make the movie now. And I said, what is the movie? And he started talking about space and science and time travel and space travel and um, giant black holes, etc., etc. Um, I said, wait a second. So this little theme, how how is this little theme going
Right.
to survive that? And he said, no, I now know where the heart of the story is. So we went from there.
Right.
We went forward from there, and then we got some proper rocket boosters in, because if you think what the big organ pipes look like, they just look like, rockets.
Can you not help again, like again, we talked about John Williams and the specter of that Superman theme, but the only analogy I can think to Interstellar is something like 2001, and obviously what Kubrick did, the juxtaposition of classical music with the images there. Is that something that's even in conversation that you and Chris are acknowledging and talking about?
Um, we watched 2001, again. Marveled at it and went, well, we don't know how to do that. you know. So I had to do that. But
Yeah.
um it is probably my most classical piece. I
Right.
mean, it uses all the devices Bach was using. So, nothing wrong with that.
No, definitely. So obviously in recent years, because of
By
both,
the
I
by
think,
the way,
yeah,
I'm asking you something since you saw the film.
yeah.
Did you like it in the film?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Because
transcendent. It feels like
it's
you're in a
pretty
church. It's like you're, yeah,
it's pretty
it's epic.
it's a little epic.
Yeah. Your relationship, obviously, you and Chris, there's no love lost considering you had to kind of bow out and let Ludwig kind of have some fun the last couple of films.
But
Is that,
I think
yeah,
that's really good. It's like occasionally you just need to refresh
yeah,
the human palate. Um, no, I mean, as you see, I mean, Chris is in this film, and
right.
uh, you know, we we've done too much. We go back too far. The friendship is strong. It
Yeah,
has to,
yeah.
but so is my friendship with Denis. So, um, one of the truly fabulous things, I don't know if it comes across in the film, is just the playing music, the playfulness of it, is wonderful. And the other part that's wonderful is you're surrounded by really interesting people, and they're your friends. You get to spend your life with really interesting people who are really good at what they do.
Yeah. I mean, again, the company you keep. I mean, all these great artists, all these great filmmakers. You talk about Ridley, you talk about Chris. Part of the secret sauce is they're geniuses, but they surround themselves with geniuses too, and
Right.
they make them look amazing.
No,
Um, you obviously have done. We talked about the Batman films. You've done, Amazing Spider-Man 2. You came back to the superhero genre with Dark Phoenix. Are you yourself kind of superheroed out? I'm kind of surprised the official MCU has never come calling, or if they have, you've said
they
no.
have, they have, and it was always timing wasn't great. Um, and 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 really, quite honestly, I mean, I'm looking for other things right
Yeah,
now. I mean, look, I've done the trifecta. I've done Batman, Superman, Spider-Man,
that's true.
and Wonder Woman,
And
right?
Wonder Woman, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So,
Where
you
do you
know,
go from there? It's hard
yeah.
to, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, what do you want me to do? Do some of the minor characters? Probably yes.
This is
Um,
Hans Zimmer, folks. Come on.
No, no, but and for better or for worse. So
Yeah.
I mean, that was very arrogant of me to say that, but actually, Kevin Feige said that to me. Hans, what are you complaining about?
What about Star Wars? I mean, obviously we've talked about Mr. John Williams, but like if that opportunity came around to dabble in that sandbox, is that intriguing at all?
Um, no,
No.
no. I think John, masterful, I mean, just so masterful has done that, and I think um, the Superman thing. I know it sounds really simple what I did because it had to be, um, because there was no way I could. I mean, that's not true. I can go into that very orchestral territory, but that's not what that's not why you hire me, right?
Right.
But I think the Star Wars thing, I think Ludwig is doing some really interesting things, but and how many interesting things do you want to go and put onto this, onto this thing before it falls apart and isn't Star Wars anymore?
Right.
Because the only way I would see myself doing it is if I could reinvent it.
Yeah, it'd be radical. Of course, that's what you do. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
and part of it is look, Dune. I never saw the original movie because when I was a teenager, I loved the book,
Right.
and I made a movie in my head, and I was the first person Denis hired. Um, which was sort of a coincidence because we were standing there waiting for a cab, and he said, "Have you ever heard of a book called Dune?" And I sort of went, a little insane and with my enthusiasm because I knew it so well. So that was a good thing. And I tell you the remarkable thing that happened was um, it was good that we needed to wait this long because he was the same way. He was a teenager when he read it.
Right.
It was good that we had to wait this long before making it because we had the craft. We had to learn the craft of how to make a movie.
Right. Well,
Um,
yeah. He's talked about Blade Runner 2049, kind of like he had to kind of go through that trial by fire to be ready
yes,
for Dune.
yes, absolutely. But at the same time, our spirit, our I don't know, our head was sort of we were teenagers again. We had the enthusiasm and the daringness of a teenager, the the recklessness of a teenager while making Dune, and but the experience and the knowledge of somebody who's done a couple of movies.
Right. Um, as we're careening towards the end, but I want to ask a couple random things. What's the feeling you have when you've created what you know in your heart? You're actually very satisfied with a great score, and you see the movie and you know the movie's not that great. I mean, that must have happened in the 100+ movies that you've composed for, where people probably aren't ever going to like enjoy this or see much of this because unfortunately the movie isn't up to, we don't need to name names, but it happens.
Yes, I sometimes name names, but I shall not at this moment. Uh, just because it's a crap movie doesn't uh, let you off the hook. You still have to write your best music,
Right.
And in a funny way, if the movie is if they are at the stage where they have realized that the movie is unsalvageable, um, actually something really great happens because you, as the composer, can do whatever you want, right? Because
All
whatever
bets
you
are off.
do is just going to make it a little bit more whatever, So it's actually very liberating. And there's one other thing that people forget, because inevitably it will turn into a failure. And a failure means no more than that nobody has seen it. So in a funny way, your slate is still quite clean. Very few people will have seen your pratfalls.
Right. What's the greatest fear at this point? Is it waking up one day and just not having any ideas? Like, do you still live in fear of like running out of inspiration?
No, I mean I'll tell you exactly what the greatest fears right now. There's so many ideas, so many projects, so many things going on. I have no idea how to it. I
There's
need
not there's not enough time to actually.
I need 28 hours in a
Right.
day. Let's start there. Um, I mean, I start things. I start a letter. I get halfway through, and then I realize, oh my God, I need to do this other thing. And then that letter sits there, you know, weeks, and then I come back to it. But by this point, it's not relevant anymore. So the ideas are, as Chris said, you know, what's the greatest idea? It's a virus in your head. It's like
Right.
it's in there, and you're dying to get it out.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. I mean, I'm designing the next show at the moment, and it's so radical. Um, I'll see if I can pull it off.
I'll definitely be there. Talk to me briefly. Just is F1 the next time I'm going to hear a score of yours on the big screen?
Yes,
Reteaming with Joe Kosinski.
yes.
Okay.
Nearly done. Again, too many ideas. Um,
A long way off from Days of Thunder. There's no symmetry there, I assume. This is
no symmetry there. No, hang on. I'm the guy that doesn't drive, right? And I've done Days of Thunder and Rush and now F1.
Right.
And you know something? The 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 teams love me. Like every time I would turn up at a race, the Mercedes team would win. And so much so that they said, "You got to come to the races because you're a good luck charm." Yeah, it was a coincidence. Their drivers and their cars were very good.
All right, we're going to end with this. The happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions for Hans Zimmer. Dogs or cats, sir? Which are you?
Oh, dogs. Dogs.
Same.
I mean, I had a big brown Labrador, and I would come home, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, my usual time, and nobody would be awake other than the lab, who would be sitting in front of me because actually he wanted to have some of the food I was eating. But I would, tell him about my day and have a conversation, and he was a great listener.
The best. Do you collect anything? What do you collect?
Ooh, that's a dangerous one to answer. I collect synthesizers.
I mean, it's acceptable given your chosen profession. That's okay. Yeah.
I think I've surpassed the threshold of acceptable.
So, well, you know it at least in your head. You've accepted it. That's the first step towards, getting through it. What's the wallpaper on your phone?
My partner.
Very nice. What's the lovely. Very sweet. What's the word? I usually ask this of actors, but it's apropos, I think, for you. What's the worst note a director has ever given you? What's totally unhelpful? What's like, that's just not going to help the cause.
When I was doing commercials, somebody said, "It's not sounding green enough."
As in money? As in nature? What does it even mean?
Avocado.
And in the spirit of happy, sad, confused, an actor who always makes you happy. You see them on screen, you're in a better mood immediately.
Ooh, Hugh Grant and his grumpiness.
I love that. Same. A movie that makes you sad, always.
Always makes me sad. Oh, this is weird. This is personal. Amadeus.
Oh,
Amadeus kills me because I grew up with his music, and the stories about his life and etc. I mean, it's just an astonishingly great movie, but just the end,
yeah.
I mean, oh,
it's an all-timer. That's a top 10
having
movie
a hard
of all
time
time.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And a food that makes you confused, sir.
A food that makes me
Yeah,
confused.
you don't get it. Why do people eat that?
Um, American cheese.
Why bother? I mean, there's so much greater cheese out there.
Right.
What are we doing here?
Absolutely. Right.
This is the correct answer. Well done, sir. I hope I haven't gushed too much, but I'll say this for the record.
You got just enough.
Well, I'm going to go overboard on the last minute. I'm just going to say, before the advent of the DVD and rewatching movies, it was listening to soundtracks like yours, like John Williams, like James Horner, like Ennio Morricone, that made me the cinephile that I am. It was my way to relive and fall in love over and over again with cinema. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, and the fact that you're still doing it and evolving and now doing it in this fantastic live events, which I will have to go to one of these days. Just thank you for everything, and I hope everybody checks out. This is in theaters very soon. Hans Zimmer and Friends, Diamond in the Desert.
And remember, we are little, so we have a very limited engagement. When they say limited engagement,
This is for real.
We're 2 days or 3 days, I mean, so don't wait till the next weekend, because the next weekend it's going to be Star Wars.
Exactly. It's now or never. March 19th and a couple days after that. Check your local listings.
Right.
No, thank you, sir. This has been a true honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was fun.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person.
I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.